Friends of Herring River presents a Herring River Restoration Project video, The Checusett Neck Bridge, Wellfleet, Massachusetts, 2023. In 1909, a dike was built across the Herring River, drastically reducing tidal flow. The herring run was decimated, and over time the ecosystem severely degraded. After decades of research and planning, the Herring River Restoration Project brings together state-of-the-art infrastructure improvements and management techniques to restore 1,100 acres of coastal habitat. Project co-owners, Town of Wellfleet and the National Park Service. Video made possible by DER and NOAA. Green salt marsh grass immersed in rippling water.
Hi, I'm Brian Karlstrom, Superintendent at Cape Cod National Seashore, and behind me is a restoration effort that is just getting underway.
Time-lapse video of bridge construction over the river.
The Checusett Neck Dike is in the process of transitioning to the Checusett Neck Bridge.
Black and white photos show the construction of the dike.
There's been some type of a tidal impoundment here all the way back to 1909, and that's where the trouble started.
Wes Stinson, project representative, Environmental Partners, stands on the edge of the partially constructed bridge.
So the existing dike, which was built in the early 20th century, essentially is just an earthen dam across the Herring River.
A series of black and white photos show the dike being built across the river mouth and the 3 box culverts.
The existing culverts were roughly 7 feet by 7 feet. Box culverts, 3 of them in sequence. 2 of those are one-way flap gates, which only allow the tide to recede, and then there's one sluice gate that does allow the tide to flood in.
Water flows through the sluice gate.
But these are severely restricting to historical tidal flows that the Herring River has seen.
An aerial view approaching the dike.
Between Wellfleet Harbor and the water levels that occur in Wellfleet Harbor, which is the blue.
Kirk Bosma, Senior Coastal Engineer and Innovation Director, Woods Hole Group, indicates a graph of wide blue tidal range and narrow red tidal range.
Anywhere from 10 to 14 feet tide range down to 1 to 2 feet.
High tide floods the marsh grass.
The current dike basically mutes that to what that red line is. So you have a massive restriction of the exchange of the water.
An aerial view of water flowing out of the dike.
And then if you go further up in the system, that tidal exchange of 1 to 2 feet becomes almost zero.
Still water in the river is surrounded by trees and shrubs.
The water quality is so poor coming out of this, it's actually been declared an impaired water quality resource by the state of Massachusetts under the Clean Water Act.
Red water flows choked with algae.
So that's why we're putting so much effort into this.
An aerial view pulls back along the river and marsh grass.
So our design approach for the permanent bridge is really modeled, around, if you will, the hydraulic requirements for the project.
Nils Weiberg, Chief Water Resources Engineer, Fuss & O'Neill Incorporated. Nils gestures to indicate the placement of the bridge panels.
So if you imagine this is the river bottom and this is the bridge deck, we allowed panels to be installed through the bridge deck, and some of the panels have gates attached to them.
Nils points to a diagram of the bridge panels.
We have 2 types of gates. Some of the gates are slide gates. In other words, they just slide up and down.
A diagram illustrates the arrangement of gates and panels.
And the other gate can slide up and down, but it can also flap out. So when the river wants to drain out into Cape Cod Bay, the flap will allow that greater volume of water to drain out. And then when the tide comes in, the flap closes and it restricts the incoming tide. And as we move through the restoration and these gates become incrementally more and more open, then the next point to increase the hydraulic opening further would be to remove panels.
A design drawing of the bridge shows the closed panels transitioning to partially open gates and a fully open bridge.
There's also been a lot of community engagement in the process of design, particularly with respect to the bridge.
Carol Ridley, Herring River Restoration Project Coordinator, Ridley and Associates. A design drawing shows platforms on either side of the bridge.
Its overall design incorporates features that reflect community desires for additional enhanced access to the water.
So we introduced some portage facilities that would allow kayakers or canoeists or take out on one side and put on the other.
A bird's eye view drawing shows ADA compliant access facilities and portage structures.
And we also developed a public access facility that's ADA accessible from Duck Harbor Road, going down on a little path down to the landing on the riverside.
It's going to be a real asset to the community.
An aerial shot tracks along the bridge under construction. Richard Waldo, town administrator, town of Wellfleet, sits in front of framed family photos.
Not only does it open up recreational activities, not only does it improve rare species habitat, improve shellfish, one of our largest industries that we have, but it also fixes a failing infrastructure.
Water flows through the dike into the river.
So if this project did not move forward, we didn't have funding from our federal and state partners, the town of Wellfleet would have been on the tab for rebuilding this infrastructure.
An aerial view shows the dike and bridge under construction.
We're hoping to learn from the mistakes of the past and really build something that's going to take the test of time.
Time-lapse video shows a crane placing pilings.
It's a tough environment in the winter. We got to make sure that whatever we build out there is going to be able to withstand the elements.
A wide aerial view moves upstream from the river mouth. Produced by Solano Film Collective, presented by Friends of Herring River. Written, directed, and edited by Evan Portnoy. Featuring in order of appearance Brian Karlstrom, Wes Stinson, Kirk Bosma, Nils Weiberg, Carol Ridley, Richard Waldo. Camera and sound, Evan Portnoy, Shirley Kim Ryu. Design graphics and plans, courtesy of Fuss & O'Neill Incorporated. Modeling visualizations, courtesy of Woods Hole Group. Aerial footage, courtesy of Dennis Fitzgerald. Archival photos, courtesy of Wellfleet Historical Society. Video made possible by DER and NOAA. Copyright 2023, Friends of Herring River.